name is Jane Watke, and I'm happy to be here to provide the service for you today. And Larry Wright is here with his guitar. And I'll begin by dedicating the flames. I call forth and dedicate this flame to the Father, energy of will. I call forth and dedicate this flame to the Son, energy of love. I call forth and dedicate this flame to the Mother, active intelligence. I call forth and dedicate this flame to Archangel Michael. I call forth and dedicate this flame to the center of light, in Huntsville. I call forth and dedicate this flame to the center of light down under in Australia and our Reverend Wendy. I call forth and dedicate this flame to the Diamond Platinum Ray. I call forth and dedicate this flame to friends and family all over the world, and particularly for our nation. I have a prayer for our country. This was given to us to be read pre-election, but now it's post-election, so I've tweaked it slightly. Sadly, our nation is very divided and needs our prayers. I breathe in peace and optimism. I awaken the presence of peace and hope within me now. I call forth the election of the President of the United States of America to serve the highest evolution of the U.S. and our world. I am grateful that truth, integrity, and peace are now present and manifesting through the U.S. presidential election. I call forth the reality of peace, collaboration, consciousness, sustainable solutions, and the new earth resonance. I affirm that the President and Vice President will serve and create the highest good for all peoples of the U.S., all peoples of the world, and all of life on our precious planet are now elected peacefully and easily. I recognize that I play a role in manifesting peace and benevolence each day, each moment. I dedicate this moment to consciously creating the election of a President and Vice President who support life and serve the highest good of all people. I am grateful that truth prevails now, that peace prevails now. I am grateful that the highest outcome for the U.S. and the world in this presidential election is now manifest. I create peace now, and so it is. Larry, would you please play God Bless America? I have always been interested in accounts of near-death experiences. The first book I remember reading was Saved by the Light by Daniel Brinkley. He described himself as a real SOB before he got struck by lightning in his mid-20s. He experienced the tunnel and the light in a life review, and he felt remorse. But he enjoyed being in the light and was disappointed when he was told it wasn't his time and he had things he needed to do. When he returned to his body, he was racked with pain, but he also had a change of heart and realized he needed to mend his ways and do good in the world. Then I read Proof of Heaven by Eben Alexander, a neurosurgeon who contracted meningitis and was on the verge of death. He described how utterly loving and beautiful it is on the other side. His experience caused a profound transformation in his belief in God and that we are all here to give love. As a medical doctor who before his near-death experience didn't really believe in an afterlife, afterward he had a greater insight about the brain, realizing that he was thinking while having the near-death experience when his brain was literally shut down. When he was in his near-death experience, he heard the music of the spheres. Since his return to this world, he's been working on producing music for others to help them meditate and experience a bit of what he experienced. I downloaded a free sample of his music. If you're interested and you have a smartphone, you can go to the App Store and check out Sacred Acoustics Audios. The aftermath of a near-death experience is that the fear of death goes away and the subjects return with a stronger understanding of the power of love, and they want to extend it. I'm reminded of Saul's episode in the Bible, where Saul suddenly saw a bright light that blinded him. I'm thinking that he may have had a mild stroke or an epileptic seizure that put him in a near-death scenario where he spoke with Jesus. And after that, we know that he stopped persecuting the Christians and became Paul, a leader in the Christian movement. I also recently watched the Cosmos program on PBS done by Neil deGrasse Tyson. He talked about Emperor Ashoka, who ruled almost all of the Indian subcontinent from 268 BC to 232 BC. When he took power, it was only after a very brutal and bloody war, and he was merciless. He had been a despicable tyrant until he had a transformational experience. Neil described a scenario where a Buddhist monk showed him a dead baby, and he was so moved that he had a change of heart. But I wouldn't be surprised if he had instead had a near-death experience, because he did a 180 and became known as Ashoka the Great. He came to endorse Buddhism, but he also respected and tolerated all religions. He became an agent of tremendous change in India. It was a period of enlightenment that was peaceful and progressive. He built roads, schools, and hospitals, and he promoted the arts. It was an era of prosperity for the people. I'm telling you about this because it can give us hope that even the most despicable people can be suddenly transformed, although it doesn't happen often enough. I said I was going to talk about near-death experiences, but I have a special take on the subject since I recently read a book called The Final Choice by Michael Grosso. In The Final Choice, the author writes, I find myself imagining something like a collective near-death experience, triggering a revolution of consciousness. My view is that the closer we edge toward plunging into apocalyptic mayhem, the more the archetypal energies of spiritual regeneration are likely to awaken and begin to transform us en masse. How this will take place is anyone's guess. Now, this book was published in 2017. Here we are, 2020, with a pandemic, environmental devastation, and social unrest. Sounds a lot like the apocalyptic mayhem he was talking about. Think about all the people in 2020 who have contracted COVID-19. I wonder how many of them have had near-death experiences. This is happening globally. Even without near-death experiences, all of our lives have changed, and we are all much more conscious of the health and well-being of others. Certainly, the pandemic is a tragedy, but it may turn out to significantly raise our spiritual consciousness and awareness of our interconnectedness. I've read that 80% of COVID patients have mild cases, which we can be thankful for. But of course, millions have also died. But I'll get back to the dead in a little bit. The Final Choice states that global trends are toward the creation of new dimensions of disaster. So it is appearing to increasing numbers of people that large-scale change of consciousness may be the only hope for humankind. I'm conjecturing that those who were greatly ill and survived may have a positive effect on the world's consciousness as their new perspective on life spreads into the culture. A literal near-death experience is not required to undergo transformation. Buddha, Jesus, and the gurus are examples of persons who fast for long periods of time, and this can help the mind experience this altered consciousness. Dr. Raymond Moody, in his book, Life After Life, describes techniques the persons can use to have a near-death-like experience. In the final choice, the author states that near-death experiencers sometimes conclude that the being of light is God. On the threshold of death, the ego may for the first time come face to face with its unknown self, the larger psychic reality submerged below the threshold of everyday life. That we are, in fact, as an individual personality, a split-off fragment of the total self that we reunite with at the point of death. No wonder these people don't want to come back, because they are experiencing a wholeness that they don't experience in a body. In the Western tradition, to claim identity of self with God rings of blasphemy. Jesus was accused of blasphemy because he claimed a special intimacy with the Father. But Tibetan Buddhist teachings say we must recognize that the divine light before which we stand in awe is a projection of the self. Near-death imagery describes becoming a self, moving from darkness to light, from unconsciousness to consciousness. Light from darkness is a universal symbol. Light is consciousness that always rises from the depths of darkness, the not yet conscious. Another near-death motif is passage through caves, canals, holes, tunnels, and moving into a clearing, birth and rebirth, a passage to a higher plane of being. So dying, and I told you I'd circle back to it, instead of seeing it as the end, can be viewed as a gateway to greater knowledge and self-realization. A person discovers the interior light when one becomes conscious of the self, big S, recognizing the big cosmic picture. Instead of seeing life in a myopic, tunnel vision sense, you now can expand your worldview to include all that is and sense the unity that we are all interconnected. The idea that death is somehow the transcendent goal of life runs counter to the modern outlook. But those who experience near-death experiences come back without fear of death, and in fact, report that what they experienced felt more real than the current world. Plus, they are quite disappointed that they had to come back. So death is the road to a greater reality than what we know in life. Near-death experiences give rise to the feelings of unity, transcendence of space and time, release from ego-driven fear, and a heightened sense of the value of truth. There is the realization, just as Jesus' resurrection illustrated, that the body dies, but the spirit that transcends it cannot be touched by death and is eternal. In closing, my summation of the premise of the author of the final choice is that we could well be in the midst of a global near-death experience that will reorient us toward the future of humanity. We're going through a dark tunnel, at the end of which we may possibly enter a new world of consciousness and panoramic self-understanding. I really hope he's right. And now we're going to have communion. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. By the power invested in me by the order of Melchizedek, and the holy order of the Christos, and the channel of the center of light. I bless this communion at the highest level of light and love and power that will restore the plan on earth. This bread or cracker represents the body. This wine or juice represents the spirit. And by taking them into our body, it represents the blending of spirit and matter. on a cloud meditation provided by Daily Om that I found on the internet. At this time, I would like to share this guided meditation with you to allow your spirit to soar for a little while. I hope you already have found a physical space to relax. If outside, you may look up at the sky, but more likely at this time, we are just going to look to the skies from within our imaginations. I visualize best in meditation with my eyes closed. Let's take 3 deep cleansing breaths, and I'll begin. Following a cloud with our eye and drifting through the sky with it is an easy, relaxing activity. When people use the phrase head in the clouds, they usually refer to a mental state that appears to be drifting rather than concentrating. For this reason, putting our heads in the clouds can be a wonderful meditation tool. Whether puffy and white or tinted with the colors of dawn and dusk or shades of gray, those vaporous sky dwellers can remind us of so many things about life and about ourselves. Directing our thoughts to the endless expanse of sky that clouds inhabit, we feel our souls expand to reach beyond any seeming limitations. Following the clouds, we are free to unleash our imaginations. We may choose to merely drift along with them for a time, enjoying their distanced perspective on the world. Or we can look for messages in their fantastical shapes or feel the joy of bounding between their immense billowy puffiness. However we interact with them, we do so from a peaceful place. Clouds drift above the hustle of the world below, knowing they belong to another realm that cannot be affected by its frenzy, reminding us that peace is always available to us. By directing our vision beyond the ordinary, clouds also remind us of the illusion of appearances. While appearing to be solid, their vapor and mist appear like cotton balls from below, giving little indication of the heights they reach. Sometimes they may cast shadows, leaving us in shade, but like life's difficulties, clouds change shape and move onward, revealing the shining sun, twinkling stars, and blue sky that are behind them. When a ray of light breaks through the clouds, their dramatic filtering only makes the light more beautiful by contrast, just as we can shine more brightly in the midst of life's challenges. When we allow clouds to offer us a welcome respite, they help us visit the realm of illusion to see the truth beyond. I hope this meditation proves to be a useful gift for you. You can remain in this relaxed state as long as you like. At this time, I will return the flames with love and appreciation. May these flames